All right, for more reaction on the sacking of SABC News head, Phathiswa Magopeni, we are now joined by Media Monitoring Africa's William Bird. Mr. Bird, a very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to The Full View. Mr. Bird, a very good evening to you. Mr. Bird, please unmute your device. We're not able to hear you.
I'm unmuted. Are you able to hear me now?
We can hear you now. There we go. We can hear you now.
Excellent.
The news of the dismissal of Ms. Magopeni has sent shockwaves throughout the media and broadcasting fraternity. What's your reaction to it?
I mean, obviously, it's a very, very sad day for the SABC and for South Africa. You know, and there's certain people that will obviously be rejoicing at the turn of events. And I think that it's really sad precisely because thanks to Phathiswa, the senior executive team, her team, and of course the board, they've been able to restore the credibility and independence of the SABC over the last several years. If you look at where it was in 2016, Phathiswa came in, she's been able to do an incredible job. So for her tenure at the SABC to end in this particular manner where, you know, it's in this particular circumstance is really, really unfortunate way for things to be going at the SABC.
For all that's been said and done with the inquiry and the probe that went on last year, well, in the latter part of last year, what's your understanding of why Ms. Magopeni has been dismissed?
So as I understand it, and having looked at the papers, you know, so the thing that is important to note is that there was an open public process. The process was open to the public. People could download the papers. In fact, they're still publicly available. And so that was something that I think is important for accountability and for credibility and transparency. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the finding against her was that essentially the person who chaired the disciplinary said he would recommend a warning for Ms. Magopeni, except for the fact that at the end of it, he noted that one of her comments was that the charges were a farce and hastily brought words to that effect. And that he said those are things that she needs to distance her, those comments she needs to distance herself from. And so as I understand it, the SABC asked her to do that, and according to the letter that is in the public domain, they say that she didn't do that, and that's led to the breakdown in trust, and that led then to this particular decision.
Well, when Ms. Magopeni joined the SABC about a couple of years ago, she's been credited for having led a team that brought back credibility on the SABC. And now there's also been issues, or rather there's also been averments made about interference from the powers that be, as it were. So what do you make of such averments?
Yeah, look, again, you know, the SABC is always going to be the subject of political contestation. We've saw comments just after the election, in fact, during the election, political parties, and the ANC in particular, wanted to blame the media for their performance, you know, and because of its role and its importance in South Africa, it's always going to be very hotly contested. The thing that I think is different and important is that, yes, just yesterday, the board issued a press release saying, these is the process that we're going to follow to deal with the grievances that Ms. Magopeni had lodged against the SABC CEO and the SABC board chair. So there was a process that was going to be set there, and you know, there were calls for that to be transparent and accountable, etc. So those are really important things, and I guess that's what you want. You know, you want allegations of interference to be out there in the public domain. You want them to be tested. You want there to be a process that people can see, can understand, can then make up their mind as, was this fair, wasn't it fair, etc. So I think that there's no doubt. And again, you know, this is why I say it's such a sad day. You know, the role that Phathiswa has played in restoring the credibility of the news, you know, and she's been, you know, aided and abetted in that excellent job through with, you know, the commitment of staff. We saw that once you establish and assert independence and you see the role of it, it's the kind of thing that gets others to say, yes, we can do this and we can do brave reporting again, which is something that, you know, the previously 2016 period was not within the realms of the SABC.
Well, many may wish to understand the impact of political interference in state-owned entities in general, and in particular the SABC. I mean, what's the extent of the erosion of the trust and the erosion of the credibility on the product of the SABC?
This particular decision, or you mean in general?
In general.
So look, what we've seen over the last few years is in fact the board, the senior executive, and of course the senior editorial team on any number of occasions asserting the independence and editorial independence of the SABC, and that has helped really restore its credibility. We know that the public, the general public, through this particular COVID pandemic, have been able to resort and rely on the SABC for accurate information. We've seen the role of the public broadcaster coming in, saying we'll start an educational channel, doing news, all sorts of inserts to try and address the COVID pandemic from whatever ways and means that they could. And that, again, speaks to the critical importance of the public broadcaster. So when these efforts are made to undermine their integrity and editorial independence of the SABC, we need to take them very, very seriously, precisely because the SABC is so critical to our democracy. So now that we're in this position, what we have to hope and see is, we must find out what Phathiswa Magopeni's take on this particular turn of events is. If she feels that she's got grounds for CCMA or Labour Court challenge, which I think was stated in the letter, then she must by all intents exercise those rights. And I hope that the board process that they'd set out in their press release yesterday will continue in some way, shape or form, because what we don't want is for then everyone to say, oh, well, this is it, and for those things just to disappear. There were very serious allegations made about editorial interference by the CEO and by the board chair. Those things must be assessed. They must be aired. We need to hear what went on. The public needs to be informed so that we can continue to have faith and trust in the public broadcaster.
Do you think the SABC board is fighting a losing battle in terms of bringing about stability at the public broadcaster? I mean, just considering the revolving door that we've seen at the offices of the SABC executive and some of the news leadership.
Well, we have to a degree, but actually this has been one of the most stable periods in employment of senior executives, and by that I'm including in the news and editorial team for decades. You had, pre the Claudia Motsoneng era, where again it was, anyone goes, and there was no adherence to good corporate governance principles. This has been an effort where the SABC has been making several steps to try and turn itself around through various measures, many of them not very popular at all. You will recall the issue of retrenchments, and issues of cost cutting to try and stabilise and make the SABC more sustainable. The SABC has been putting out views on how it's going to move into a digital future. There's been participation in the white paper process on all of these things. So I think that the SABC, to the extent that it can, has done a really powerful and strong job in trying to assert its independence and provide a level of stability. We've had that for the SABC newsroom. There's not been, as far as I can recall, over the last several years, any of the kind of nonsense that you'd seen of, these reporters saying, well, we've been told what to do by this one, and this journalist is being favoured by that one. We're not seeing that, and that's really, really powerful. It speaks to that newfound adherence, or refound, I should say, adherence to editorial independence and integrity.
All right, Mr. Bird, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That was Media Monitoring Africa's William Bird, just commenting on the latest development about the sacking and the dismissal of SABC head of news, Phathiswa Magopeni.